Good morning, beautiful you. I wanted to speak today to something that I noticed is bubbling up in me that I really need to give voice to. And that is that this morning I woke up feeling out of alignment. I woke up feeling niggles and irritations and a few worries about things, and instead of going down that road of, attaching one worry to the next worry and going down that sort of road of negativity, I decided to work on myself the way I would be working with a client if I was working with a client. And so I did the work on me, and I recalled what happened 2 days ago. 2 days ago, I went to an authentic relating event in Ubud, around the corner. There's lots of things like that happening here. And as you know, I teach heart circles and heart circling. And so I've done a lot of this kind of authentic communication. And we did some group work. I was the oldest woman there. Everyone was in their sort of 20s and 30s, maybe a couple of guys in their 50s. And when we worked in a little group of 4 people, we all had to stand in a circle and put our arm out, and the 4 people that you held hands with were the people you worked with. And so I had a little group of 4, and we were so connected, the 4 of us. I felt like Mummy Bear. I saw the love and I felt the love in their hearts. We met eye to eye, and these were just pure souls. I felt it. We sat together, we did some practices, some authentic relating practices, just sharing simple things as a practice. And the 4 of us at the end just said, wow, we're like a little family. We've only been together for like 15 minutes, and there was this massive bond. And I felt this overwhelming motherly love towards these young people who were so way advanced of where I was in my 30s. I wasn't in the slightest bit conscious or aware of how I communicated, and certainly didn't know anything about communicating from the heart. Now, because I naturally trust in the process of life, and I am aware enough to notice when my ego is at play and when I am moving from my heart. And as I say that, I actually feel activated. I feel like I want to cry tears of joy, because the one thing that is my gift, if you like, when I'm coaching clients, when I'm with friends who want to go to that deep level, and when I'm offering a heart circling event, is that I am able to very quickly take people into the heart, and I'm able to recognize when the ego or the mind is speaking, and allowing them to experience the bliss, the joy, the freedom, the liberation, the sovereignty of speaking the truth about how we feel, and connecting and speaking from that place of absolute truth. So I knew this morning when I woke up that I wasn't in my truth. I knew that I was in my head. And because I know the difference, I know how to move out of that place, or love myself in the place that I'm in and do the inner work. Now, because I trust in all of this, and I have experience in all of this, something really fascinating happened 2 days ago, was that having activated this real beautiful mother energy, and even saying to the guy that I was working with, I'm noticing the part of me that is wanting and feeling this nurturing, mothering feeling, and yet I'm noticing that thought. Like, I'm not going to put my mothering on you, I was just noticing that frequency within me. But when I got home that evening, having had such a beautiful experience at the 2-hour workshop, I activated. I was suddenly noticing that I was really in my divine feminine, sacred sexuality, creative kundalini, raw, potent sexual energy. And that was the piece that I remembered that I haven't activated for maybe a week or 2. And that is the energy that I really am curious about within my groups of women, my circles, and my clients, because there's this point with women, particularly probably English women, I think, more so than certain other European countries. I say certain because a lot of the work I've done has been in Holland, where they're definitely more open and more liberated sexually. And I come, I would say, from somewhere that is repressed sexually, and I always, particularly from my second marriage, felt like an outcast when I wanted to talk about how enjoyable and pleasurable my experience of having a beautiful, juicy time with my second husband, but it wasn't allowed to be talked about, and yet it was just so mind-blowing and shattering, and yet the programming and the conditioning of sex in our culture is so contracted and so polar opposites of the experience of sacredness, so that I'm not talking about really sort of having sex. I'm talking about the tantra side, where it's not this completely bastardized version of tantra where all of the stuff that's taught, a lot of it in a lot of the groups, is not safe, it's not authentic, it's trendy, polyamory, touchy-feely, just so not aligned, that many of us have just really turned our backs on even the idea of doing tantra. And yet I know inherently it's who I am, it's what I am. When I'm being a sovereign woman, I can activate these frequencies and know when I'm getting caught up, or if I'm buying into a program of what it is not. And this is where you have to really be good at deciphering which is real, which is real, and which is more of the ego and the pleasure without the deep sacredness. And there's a lot of distorted frequency around that whole subject, and this is why we have to start trusting in our own innate wisdom. And this is where, again, where sovereignty and really starting to trust in your own truth, your own wisdom. And so this is a really roundabout way of saying that I noticed when I put in the women's group, in this group, if I'm sharing this in this group, this is the group I'll probably share it in, is that, when I ask what would you like me to share about, anything around sort of sexuality, sacred sexuality, is always the bottom of the list. And yet the interesting thing is that when we activate all of the wholesomeness within every area of our life, our Shakti, creative life force, sexual energy is by default activated. And that's really what I wanted to say. And so many women today are cut off from that. The shame is still very much there around sexuality, the pleasure, the essence of woman, the essence of what it is to be a surrendered, open, expansive, receiving, playful, joyful, juicy woman, has been not only distorted by all of this tantra stuff, sadly, or by women not being met where they are ready to receive. And I know that just the O word triggers an awful lot of women just to even use the word, because the amount of protection and fear and it's not even a misunderstanding, it's a program. It's a program around shame. And it's in us, and it was in our ancestors for many hundreds and hundreds of years, if not thousands of years. The program runs deep, and I really have to speak to this, because when we can liberate ourselves from all of the programming about how we should be, the good girl, the nice girl, the people pleaser, the not speaking our truth, the not sharing our emotions, the not really feeling our feelings, and all of these ways that we have been boxed into being a woman, no wonder women are feeling frustrated, lonely, unfulfilled, not interested in even in a relationship, never mind sexual intimacy with a man, or themselves even. Like, just the very thought of touch and intimacy, intimacy, can have such a negative impact on women. Not only where there has been abuse, although a lot of clients that I've worked with have had abuse. I'm talking about women even who have not had abuse. And the self-abuse that is happening unconsciously because we're not allowing ourselves to access those parts of ourselves that actually are what sustain us in living a whole, wholesome, beautiful, expressive, expansive, exquisite, delightful, delicious, pleasurable, heartfelt, heart orgasm, surrendered, expansive life, where we can actually drop into our feminine and not play the role of the masculine out there in our families, in our work, and actually allow ourselves to experience what it feels like just to lean back into being a feminine and resting when we need to rest, and having ourselves fulfilled as a woman, as a whole woman, in the softness, in the leaning back into being served by a king, by a man who can care for us, by allowing ourselves to really, really honour our goddess, our queen, our sovereign, our womanhood, the real feminine, divine feminine. And I'm a work in progress. You know, I have not personally had that relationship that so many of us long for, so many of us yearn for. And yet so many of my sisters are not even longing or yearning for that, or not admitting to themselves that they're not even ready for that, because they haven't even allowed themselves to be in a place that is even ready to be open to that. And now I've expressed all of that, I can go and meet my friend for breakfast. I had to put words to how I was feeling this morning. And one of the things I just also wanted to say, that I'm really recognising that in my coaching and in my courses, one of the irritants for me has been how to put myself out there like other people do. And I was looking at Facebook this morning, and you know, one of the things I really have to embody all the time and teach is that we are all unique. We all have our own way of getting through this life. We all have our own way of moving through. And it's about trusting in your own process. And that is where I hold my magic in my clients, is to guide the way. And that's why I work so individually with where everyone or where anyone is at in that moment. And I realise that's why it's difficult for me to always be able to explain what it is I do, because so much of what I do is intuitive. It's intuitive. And so everyone I work with, whether it's, you know, movement, Pilates, yoga, coaching, heart circles, which is easier in heart circle, because heart circling is very much about being present and going with intuition and just moving from that place, which is the feminine. Oh, so if you're with me thus far and would like to just take a breath in and just receive all that I have literally shared just now, and if it touches you in any way, please do let me know. Or maybe, maybe it hasn't, and if it hasn't, you can let me know as well. But hopefully for even one woman to have received what I've said, then I'm happy I've shared it, and I'm happy I've shared this and videoed it so that I can maybe reach out to one other or a few others. So deep breath in. Because that's what the feminine needs.